Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. In this video series, I'm going to select boxes of junk from my basement and just see what's inside the box and tell you whatever I can about the items we find inside. And it's called Basement of Horror because I'm a monster collector, so most of the stuff is going to be monster toys, and because the basement is so horrible that I don't want to show you the basement. I'm just going to show you boxes. Otherwise you would see me walking around the basement taking the box out of the shelf and saying, hey, let's look in here, but it's much too terrifying to do that. Just take my word for it. You don't want to see this basement. It's scary. I've already pre-selected the boxes, so we don't need to see me selecting them on the shelf. It's already right here. Okay, so let's take a look inside this box. Well, this is interesting. This is a Dragonriders of the Styx Dueling Devils. Motorized, just pull back and watch them go. Let me see if we can get out of here so you can get a better look at it. Can you see that? Dragonriders of the Styx Dueling Devils. That bubble is just barely there. It's held on with staples. I didn't staple it. It was probably stapled at the store because the bubble came off. Very yellow. But look at this cute little devil. Let's see if we can get a better look at him. So this little guy is part of a much larger set called Dragonriders of the Styx. This was made in 1983 by Multi-Toys Corporation. Let's see what else is in this box. I think we've got more Dragonriders of the Styx in this box. Hey, look at that. Lots of Dragonriders of the Styx. It's hard to get them, it's hard to position them so that they don't reflect the light. I'm not taking all these out of the bags. So this was a toy series from the 80s, obviously, inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons was really popular in the 80s, and it's making a comeback now in 2019. There's a lot of people playing it again. And here we have a wizard. Let's see if you can see that. And also, besides Dungeons and Dragons, I think Lord of the Rings was an inspiration. There wasn't a movie or anything at this time, but Lord of the Rings was still pretty popular because it was part of that whole D&D kind of world. If you like D&D, you probably like Lord of the Rings. These all have names. So this is like a warrior, like a macho sort of heroic warrior. Kind of has a Conan the Barbarian kind of a vibe. It's got those, his helmet has got like, kind of like in Conan how it has the Tulsa Doom snakes. Well, he kind of has horns, kind of reminds me of that. I could see him being like Tulsa Doom's right-hand man. And this is a Black Knight. He's like a King Arthur kind of knight, sort of from a different world. Not exactly, he doesn't really go with the rest of them. Now here are the cool ones. This is a Dragon Man, and he looks like something out of the movie Hexen. The silent, is it German or is it Austrian? The silent movie Hexen. He also kind of looks like something out of the TV movie Gargoyles. He's very demonic in a kind of old world, weird sort of way. He looks like something you'd find in a medieval illustration. And this guy is also very crude and brutish. He's a blue demon, not the wrestler. He's actually a demon with blue skin. And he also kind of has that Conan the Barbarian look. There's sort of an expression on his face that's, kind of gleeful and not very bright. I could see maybe the second Conan movie. Maybe he'd be more appropriate for that one. Conan the Destroyer. And he's also got that sort of medieval demonic illustration vibe. And this is a red demon with wings. Now he actually looks like the devil, except he doesn't have horns. He's more of a bat creature. He's probably the coolest one. I think he's my favorite. And I could see him using this thing. Now the back of this card has color pictures of everything in this set. This card's really warped. Oh, let's see if I can read the official names of these characters. The Wizard, Ragnar, the Warrior, the Black Knight, Golif the Ogre, or something like that. Ghouls the Ogre? I don't know. The Demon, Warrior, and Dragon Man. Not the most inspired names. Some of these vehicles on the back of this thing are really weird. These are some strange accessories. And I've seen some of these in collections. I would love to have some of this stuff. Like Fantar, particularly this black demonic horse. That looks really cool. There's some dragons. Skull Sled looks really neat. So, why do I have these things? Well, when I started toy collecting, it was right around the time that Children's Palace was closing. Now, if you don't know what Children's Palace is, you know what happened to Toys R Us? If you're watching this around 2019, then you know that Toys R Us just closed its doors. That was a very famous, very big toy store chain that was around for years and years. and just recently went out of business. Well, Children's Palace was the same kind of thing. Children's Palace was a big retail toy store chain with locations everywhere. It was always maybe just a little downscale from Toys R Us. I always got the feeling that Toys R Us was just a little more posh or mainstream or something, kind of like Target and Walmart. And Children's Palace was a little more gritty than Toys R Us. But as I started getting into toy collecting, Children's Palace was going out of business. It was a great time to become a toy collector because they were purging their warehouses of all of this old stock going back to the 70s. This is like 1990, 91, 92, in that era, early 90s. And they were getting like original Mego superheroes from the 70s and all kinds of vintage stuff that today goes for a lot of money. And it was out there for at Toys R Us in the clearance aisles for like 99 cents. I bought a bunch of Kenner Indiana Jones toys that now would go for hundreds. I would buy them for 99 cents. All kinds of weird toy lines that I probably wouldn't have collected otherwise, but they were a buck or so. Why not? So I would just fill the cart up with all this cheap clearance merchandise, which was already collectible. Even at the time, there were already people thinking of that stuff as being collectible. These toys were like 10, 15 years old already, and they weren't like played with at the Goodwill. They were mint in the package at the store. So it was like, it was like going back in time, not 50 years, but like 10 or 15 years. It was a big store where you could go in and just buy collectibles at normal retail prices. So, oh, here's a carded Mego Spider-Man that you might sell for $100, but here it is for $1.99. Okay, put that in the shopping cart. That's the way it was. And I didn't find these, but I know a store in my area had Lincoln Monsters, carded Lincoln Monsters, and I missed them. Someone else in the area got them. I don't know which ones. I was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 monsters were hanging. I found out about it after the fact, but that was like the biggest score I missed. But I did get a lot of other great stuff. There was a lot of really cool stuff. Plenty of like Secret Wars and Superpowers, all kinds of stuff. So that's when I bought these things. And the reason that I liked these crazy toys, these Dragonriders, was because they were just so eerie and creepy. Sounds like a Warren magazine. They were just bizarre, kind of, they're crude, but they're sort of lurid. I mean, I'm not into like He-Man or Dungeons and Dragons or Sword and Sorcery. That genre doesn't really interest me. I'm a horror guy. But it crosses over. So there's, I mean, this is a horror toy for sure. It's also a fantasy toy, but it has one foot in the horror realm. And they made these things much more lurid and weird than they needed to. They didn't make them like happy-go-lucky knights in shining armor, or like He-Man, which is all childlike and kind of innocent. These are not innocent. These are weird. So that's why they appeal to me. Well, let's see what else is in this box. I don't want this video to run too long. Let's see what we got here. Well, better make some room for these. Okay. These are Thriller Graveyard Gang Bendy figures. There's 6 of them. I don't have all their names memorized, but I know this one's Howard, the Howling Hound. He's a werewolf. Yeah, I'm not going to look at all their names, but you can see how cool they are. And they come in these coffin-shaped packages. So the bubble is coffin-shaped, and they have that cardboard insert inside that's also coffin-shaped. And he's got a nice disfigured looking face with one eye blind, and he's a cool shambling zombie. And I like the way their hands are in their hair, like they're so frustrated, they don't know what to do. They're just over it. They're through with this. They're making that kind of gesture. And that's the only female zombie in this set. She's cool. I like the look in her eyes. You probably can't see that. She's got a really nice kind of stare in her eyes. And this one's called Midnight Mike. You can guess who that's supposed to look like. And take a look at this artwork. Let me see here. Let's try this one. Take a look at this art. Look at that zombie peeking behind the tombstone. Now these I also got at Children's Palace. These were made in 1984, I believe, by a company called Powco. I believe it's Powco Industries. It should say somewhere on here. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's Powco. So obviously these are supposed to be from Michael Jackson's Thriller video, which was new when these were made. And he does look like Michael Jackson. I mean, it's a pretty good, for the style of toy that it is, it's a decent likeness. You can tell who it's supposed to be. And he's got a cool little vest with like fake like leatherette stripes. It's neat. And they glow in the dark. All these figures glow in the dark. Their heads, and I think their entire bodies, all of the material, it all glows in the dark. So they're really cool little monster toys. They were unlicensed, so these are knockoffs. They did not ask Michael Jackson's permission to make these things. They are unlicensed knockoff toys based on Michael Jackson's Thriller. A set of zombies. As I said in a previous video about the Toy Island talking zombie, there just wasn't a lot of zombie stuff back then. I mean, these, I don't know if I can even think of another zombie toy in the 80s besides these. These are sure as heck zombies, and they're the closest thing to Night of the Living Dead, George Romero type zombie figures that had ever existed up to this point. And there wouldn't be anything like that again for years and years. So they're really unique. Now, I remember the day I found these crazy things. It was at Children's Palace, and I was pushing my cart, and there was a whole quarter of the wall in one aisle, like 5 or 6 feet, peg hooks, just filled with these things. And they were 99 cents each. And I bought just about every one they had, as many as I could fit in my cart. I bought maybe, I don't know, about 90 of them. So I spent about $100. That was a lot of money, but I was getting a lot for my money. I knew at the time, even though I was just beginning to collect, I was already thinking that I need to sell stuff, not just buy stuff. And I knew that these would be good things to sell. The first set I think I sold for like $15. So I bought it for like $6 and sold it for $15. And then I think the next set I sold for like $25. And on and on. And I didn't sell them all right away. I kept them over the years, over the course of the 90s, until by the late 90s, the final set I sold was, I don't know, $550 or something like that. So I'd gone from my $100 investment paid off very nicely. I think I sold a set for like $250, and then the last one for like $550. So every time I would sell the set, it would kind of double, like 15, 25, 50, and so on, until it was up into the several $100 range. And I kept this set for myself. So this is my personal set. And I don't think I'll ever sell these. I really like these thriller figures. They're a favorite of mine. And then particularly just the way I found them, finding them at the store for so cheap and just stocking up and filling my cart with them. It was really cool. Let's see what else is in here. Well, I see we have a couple of Manglors. So that is the Manglord. And this is the Manglosaurus. And I thought for sure I had another one of those, but there isn't one in the box. Maybe it's in another box, I don't know. Or maybe that's it. But these are like rubber jigglers that were designed to break apart and then stick back together. And I remember when these first came out, they're made by Ideal. I don't remember what year. Let's see if it says. I want to say it was the early 80s, but it might even have been late 70s. I don't know the year on these, but I remember when they were new, and I think I was still playing with toys. I'm not sure, or maybe I just stopped playing with toys, but I was in the toy aisle, not as a collector, as a young person, and there was one of these things opened up. I did not open it up. And I couldn't believe how chintzy it was. It was Manglord, and someone had broken them apart. And in fact, I think a few of them were open, because kids were curious. Like, well, how can you take a toy and break it apart and then put it back together? And then what, does it heal itself? That's not possible. They were very curious to see, how did this work? And even though the box has this amazing artwork, and I know this is by a famous, this artwork is by a famous artist. I want to say Ken Kelly, but I'm not sure. I'm sure someone watching will be shouting at the screen, telling me who painted this, but I think it was Ken Kelly. I'm not sure, but it was a famous artist. The artwork makes it look like something amazing, but inside it's just this weird little rubber figure that's not articulated. It's very crudely sculpted, and I think the only paint is maybe around his waist or something. It's just this really goofy, crude rubber toy. And same with this Tyrannosaurus character. It's just a rubber Tyrannosaurus, and it's not even a really good rubber Tyrannosaurus, like something like maybe Imperial would have made, or Ben Cooper. It's not even like that. It's just sort of minimal. It's minimalistic. They're all of these Manglors, the sculpts, are very minimal. and it's just that they're made of a kind of a sticky rubber. It kind of sticks to itself. So when you pull it apart, you're tearing the toy apart, you're breaking it. But because it's sort of tacky, when you stick it back together, it sort of holds together for a while. But as soon as you start playing with it, it comes apart. If it gets dirty, it comes apart. So it doesn't last. And you can, the box says that you can take different characters and pull them apart, you know, their heads and arms, and then mix and match them. Well, then you just have a bunch of broken toys. So the concept's a great one, but the execution is terrible. So from a kid's point of view, they're awful. But from an adult collector's point of view, they're awesome, because they're just so weird, so bizarre. I don't have a loose one to show you. This package is sealed. You know, this box has never been opened, so I'm not going to open it right now. And if I did, there would be nothing to show you but a goofy little rubber man, a green rubber man. He looks kind of like the Jolly Green Giant, as I recall. Let's see if there's anything else in this box. Okay, well, so here we have some Monster Meanies. Let me see if I can get this closer to the camera. So here's one Monster Meanie. Here's another Monster Meanie. I don't know if you can see that one. It's like King Kong. It's like a gorilla. And this one's obviously like an Ultraman kind of creature. The Monster Meanies were also sold at Children's Palace. And I used to have a whole set. There was a bendy series and then a solid PVC series. And these are the solid ones. And I used to have them all on cards. But I sold them, I guess, in the 90s, stupidly. And now they're going for like 100, 200 each on cards. Oh well. I wish I still had mine. They're cheesy as heck, but they're really cute. Really weird, cute toys. I'm glad I still have these two loose ones, just to have representative examples of the Monster Meanies in my collection. Maybe I'll look out and find some cheap carded ones one of these days. And finally, we have this little guy. Maybe I can take him out. Let me get him closer to the camera. So you see he looks like a little Frankenstein figure, but he's like a necklace. He's got a chain attached. Now this is actually, unofficially, a TV Monster Squad Frankenstein. This is not Universal, but he's so cute. Look at him. This is actually based on the Monster Squad. That was a TV show in the 70s. And the same company that made the Monster Meanies also put out these little Monster Squad figures. They didn't call them the Monster Squad, though. I don't remember what they called them. They had a card that had the same kind of artwork as the Monster Meanies, the bendy style Monster Meanies. Same kind of background, but it had a different title. And I just recently got the Wolfman for this set. There's a Wolfman, a Frankenstein, and a Dracula. And I do have the Wolfman, and I guess he should go in this box. He just arrived a few days ago. I bought him from Brian Heiler of Pod Stallions and the Mego Museum. Thank you, Brian. And he just arrived a few days ago, so he'll be joining Frankie in this box. So here's my big box of Children's Palace loot. So this box brings back some memories for me, my early days of collecting, when they had that great opportunity for a couple of years. Not great for the people who worked at Children's Palace, they were going out of business, but great for a new collector to just have a giant collection of vintage toys like that just by going to the store, just stocking up. And just for $1 or $2, getting all that vintage action figures and all kinds of different toys, and such a variety of different toys that I probably would not have pursued otherwise. If they were full price on the collector market, I probably wouldn't have bought them. But because they were so cheap, I was able to be eclectic and have a more variety in my collection right off the bat than I might have otherwise. When I started collecting, I just collected everything. The boys' action toy genre, that's the way it was classified. So if it was an action figure or something that a little boy would play with, that's what I collected. It was very broad. I was a generalist. And then after a couple years, I focused to monsters. And then I sold the superheroes and the TV characters and the fantasy stuff and all. I sold all of that. I just kept the monsters. I just focused on monsters from then till now. But all of this stuff is, I consider these monster toys, even the Dragonriders. Yeah, it's fantasy stuff, but it's also monster stuff. Okay, well, I think we're done with this episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again on Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror.